Hello all, welcome to lesson 6 of Java programming language, that is input and output. In this complete lesson we'll be knowing how do we get input from the keyboard and how do we display the output once you execute the Java program. As part of this lesson we'll be discussing all these topics and for now again this being a bit lengthy chapter, I'll be probably telling this in two sections or two parts. For complete lesson, we'll be knowing how can we accept the input from the keyboard, and how can again that is categorized as how can we accept single characters, how can we accept string, then integer values or float values, double and other types of values and different types of values as well. Once you finish this, we'll be reading input from the Java util scanner, that is utility scanner, and then displaying the output with the system.out.print, and then we will be formatting the output with the string.format. All these sections we'll be learning as part of this lesson. All right. When we come for the first topic, accepting input from the keyboard, this means how can we take input from the keyboard will be all included in this. A stream is required to accept input from the keyboard. A stream represents flow of data from one place to another place. That means it can even transfer data from keyboard to memory, or from memory to pointers, or from memory to a file. This is how, if you have to take any input from the keyboard, you need a stream, and stream is representing flow of data from one place to another place. It can carry data from keyboard to memory also, memory to pointers also, sorry, printers also, and from memory to files as well. All streams represented by class in java.io, that is java.input-output. This io represents input-output package, and keyboards is representing in the file in this system. Okay, once only if you write in a system class, that will include that you can accept something from the keyboard for your program. When system class is found in java.language package, and there are having three other fields, and all these fields represent some or the other types of streams. Like if you see the first field as system.in, this represents input stream reader that you can take from keyboard. System.out, that you can represent something onto the monitor as an output, and system.error, which will represent some error onto the output monitor. Both the things you can give an output with the help of system.out.println as a normal message, and again this can be an error message if you're using this package system.err. When you have to accept data from the keyboard, that is system.in, we need to connect it to the input stream, and these are few steps, or two steps are how we can connect our keyboard to the input stream. When you have to do that, we have to first connect keyboard to the input stream object by this statement, input stream reader object new input stream reader of system.in. That means you are including the packages of system.in in the new object of input stream reader. All right, once you finish that, we have to connect the input stream reader to the buffer reader, and which is another input type of stream. That can be done by buffer reader br is equal to new buffer reader of object. That means you're including this new br to this buffer reader. What happens when you combine these two statements is you get buffer reader br is equal to new buffer reader of new input stream reader of system.in. That means whatever object that you have to create, okay, this kind of object part, since we have object here, we are placing all this data in place of object, so the rest of the thing will be remaining same. Buffer reader br is equal to new buffer reader, and then in place of object new input stream reader of system.in. This is the statement that will include everywhere in our programs from now. Okay, then when we read the data from coming from the keyboard, we can use read or readline methods. This will be better understood with this simple diagram. What happens here is system.in with the keyboard that you want to take the input. When you take the input, system input stream reader will accept that input and buffer reader as well, and then you give the data as an or you accept the data as the input from the keyboard. This is how we read data from the keyboard. Accepting single characters from keyboard. When we say single characters, we have to create a buffer reader class object and then read one single character from keyboard by using read method. When you use read line method, that is used for reading more than one character. That means you can read one single line. So for reading a single character, you'll be using read. So here char ch of br dot read, that means we can read one character of character data type and place it in the variable ch. The same thing happens here. You're placing this char here. As part of the example, this is all till here we have learned. This is the extra thing, throw salvo exception. I'll let you know what is this. And then all this buffer reader is equal to new buffer reader input stream reader of system.in have to be included to accept keyboard from, to accept input from the keyboard from now till wherever we want input to be taken from the keyboard. You have to include this line into your program. All right. Then you ask to enter a character. You write this character of ch where char is equal to br dot read, and then that character will be read and you give an output. So when you ask for entering a character, if I suppose enter a, you'll get output as a. Accepting a string is otherwise called as group of characters, as for our knowledge till now. Okay, if you have to read string, you have to use read line option. Okay, this throws IO exception is that when you read a string, that is group of characters, there might be some errors occurring when you write, or when you when the user is writing some input as a word. Like for example, I want to write New Delhi, but I might give space between New and Delhi. Sometimes I may not give. Sometimes what happens, it may be considered as an error. Since Java is having an inbuilt capability of correcting errors, so what we do is we have to use those errors as an exception, and then we are throwing that exception through the system itself, that is the Java compiler itself, and asking for an exception of that error. Therefore this throws input output exception is included, where we are asking Java compiler to compile or remove the errors by itself. Okay, this is how you write throw salvo exception after the main itself. Then this is for including something from the keyboard. You ask to enter a name that is stored or taken as an input with the read line method, and then the output is given. I wrote my name as an input, therefore it is stored in name. Since I'm printing that name here, I get my name as an output. All right. When you come for accepting integer values from the keyboard, here you have to accept integer values. Integer values, we are again using read line option or read line method here. String str is equal to br dot read line. This is actually for string. So now we want what do we say, integer values. So we use int, then integer dot parse int of string. That means whatever value that you take have to be converted using parse int method to integer class. If suppose I take a as an input, but I still want that to be in the integer format, then integer dot parse int method, this is used to convert this string into integer type. Okay, the same thing here again. What we are doing is, in place of what do we say, str, we are using br dot read line. This is how. Okay, this we are replacing here. This is the complete what do we say, statement when you have to read integer values from the keyboard. Look at the simple program. Till here it is same for everything. You ask for entering a value, we use this to store in the variable num, and then that is stored read and stored from the keyboard and given as an output. I'm reading the number 23412. Again I'll get the same output. All right, accepting float values. Till now we have learned integer values. Float, here it have to include some decimal points, right? So just like an integer, it can also accept float values. For that, we will be only changing the data type here, float n, and float dot parse float. That means whatever value you give, that will be changed into float data type and will be stored in the variable n. Okay. Then here we are asking to enter a float value. Again, this same statement is used that we discussed here. Once you enter, that will be given as an output. Here I gave 34.56 and the same output will be displayed. Accepting double, very similar to that of float and integer, only data type will be changed here. As I said you, in case of float, the same statement, and then asking user to enter some double value and giving that as an output. So here I entered some double value, like so many decimal points I gave, because this is the value, you know, to make sure that double can store more than integer or more than what do we say, more number of decimal values. So that is the reason why I give many decimal values here, and that will be given as an output. The only difference everywhere is what you write data type here. If you want it in terms of integer, you can write it in integer. If you want it in float, you can write it in float n and float parts of float, float dot parse float. And if you want in integer, integer. This is you know, what do we say, input output of part 1. If you have any doubts at any point, please let me know. I'll make sure I'll come back to you and clarify your questions. Thank you.